is about ghusl, and also Rami from Egypt. He had a question about how to perform ghusl. So we get to answer the two questions at a time. Number one, Mahbub said the sunnah in ghusl is to do 1, 2, 3, and he also mentioned the niyyat. No, a niyyah is not a sunnah. A niyyah of every act of worship is the main pillar, the main rukn of the ibadah. The main rukn of the ibadah. Any ibadah that is offered without the niyyah, and the niyyah has to precede the act, is invalid. So number one, and by the way, that will differentiate between the ghusl, which is intended to lift the major impurity, which will be sufficient for both ghusl and wudu, or mere taking a shower. Somebody, after having an intimate relation with his or her spouse, like non-Muslims do, they jump into the shower and they wear some nice perfume, fragrance, and they step out. Is this ghusl? No, that's not ghusl. The ghusl, the one which is preceded by the intention of lifting and removing the major impurity due to intercourse or sexual discharge, even without having an actual sexual relations, or with dreams, for instance, or after the menstruations or the postpartum bleeding. So that is in order to lift لرفع الحدث الأكبر, the major impurity. And any ghusl, mahbub, a person performs in order to lift the major impurity is sufficient for both ghusl and wudu. So you don't have to make another wudu afterward. So we said the niyyah is compulsory. And without the niyyah, the act of worship is nullified. Whether for the ghusl or any act of worship, whether it's a fard or nafl, voluntary act of worship. Number two, with regards to the order, washing the hands, then washing the private, whether male or a female. Then afterward, the third is to perform wudu. Okay? Then wash the entire body from head to toe by washing the right side first, then the left side, then pouring the water all over your side. If a woman has her hair in braids, as the sister asked in another question, Aisha from Nigeria, doesn't have to undo the braids or loosen her hair. But if the hair is loosened, then one must make sure that the water would reach to the roots of the hair and to the scalp of the head by using his or her fingers. Similarly, if one is wearing a thick beard or a long one. After the person does so, he is not required to make a new wudu, because already the ghusl removes the major and inclusively the minor impurity. Wudu will be advised here if the person touched his or her private while they were drying up. We discussed this before and we said there are two different opinions, but since it is pertaining tahara, it is best to make wudu if one touched with his or her palm their own private. But if it didn't happen, then the person does not have to make a new wudu. The ghusl will be